and they locked me away inside of a veal crate with my arms and legs bound to allow my muscles to atrophy. They're gonna sell my meat to a fancy restaurant.
Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
Welcome to the Kongversation. Let's go. I'm David Thomas Lynch.
Hey, David, you know, it's possible now that there might be more than half a dozen people around the world who will understand that reference. I'm hoping. I'm really hoping.
Probably all playing Mario Clash.
What a time. What a time to be alive if you are as weird and broken as I am. Because let me tell you something. I have been a Nintendo kid since age of, 4, maybe 3. I have been playing every generation of Nintendo console, every Nintendo handheld, and yet for the vast gulf of time between the prime of my childhood and now, I haven't really cared for Nintendo all that much. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. A lot of reasons why I feel like my understanding of what Nintendo is culturally drifted away from me. But in the last couple of years, oh my God, it's like the Nintendo of my childhood has returned to me. And part of that is that the Virtual Boy is back. And yes, we've done Virtual Boy episodes here on the Kongversation in the past. But with the recent launch of Nintendo Classics Virtual Boy for Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack members, and the launch of the replica Virtual Boy headset and the cardboard facsimile porthole that they've released, Virtual Boy is now no longer just a remote historical oddity or punchline for subsequent generations of gamers who weren't around in the mid-1990s or didn't have slightly older kids to push this on them, as anybody who's played the Virtual Boy, honestly, before this point, had to be. And now, these games are just readily available again. And it's something gamers of all generations can experience without having to track down a 30-year-old weird red visor on a kickstand that probably doesn't even work anymore. And the way Nintendo has done this, I would say it's mostly faithful to the original experience. We can break down some of the nitty-gritty later on.
Yeah, I have one just sitting on my desk right now, getting in the way of my laptop, making it kind of hard to read the show notes.
Yeah, just like the Virtual Boy got in the way during the mid-90s. It was great.
And not just because you go blind if you play it too much, allegedly.
Yeah, that's what they said about everything I was doing around that time. And it worked out for the best. All around. Yeah, anybody who has a Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo Switch 2 and is a Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack member can now experience all of these games that I have ranted about for decades now on DK Vine. And if you have been reading DK Vine for decades or even listening to the Kongversation for longer than just the last couple of years, which is where the bulk of our audience has found us, you'll know our site has had a bizarre affinity, fascination for the Virtual Boy. And it's so baked into the subculture of our website, which is a subculture within a subculture within a subculture. But it's been there since we launched the site in 1999. And it's mostly owing to me having a fetish for this damn device, this failure, like Nintendo's greatest shame. And because I had this weird lust for it, I then turned Chad onto it. And then throughout the years, as numerous staff members have joined DK Vine, we've kind of then turned them onto the Virtual Boy and so on. And I'm not sure how many people we've honestly done this to before the launch of NSO.
At least two.
At least two. Definitely more than two. I know, like, the original staff was all inundated, and then you, David, and I think, like, Mark, and definitely some of the 2010 staff who are still with us today. But it is just kind of ludicrous how I was one of the biggest Johnny Appleseeds of the Virtual Boy, just spreading it far and wide, you know, the red and black delicious apples, feeding them to people who otherwise probably would have never taken a bite. And I'll get into exactly why the Virtual Boy has such an appeal for me and why it kind of looms so large in my Nintendo fandom when I know it's a failure. I know it's dumb. I know there are only like 3 good games for it. I get that.
I mean, isn't that kind of the fun of it?
Yeah, that's kind of the fun of it, yes. I'm not trying to persuade anybody that the Virtual Boy is this vastly misunderstood piece of genius. It's all about potential, David. It's about what the Virtual Boy represents, man. And when Nintendo announced that this was happening last September, I knew we were going to have to do an episode about it here on the Kongversation at some point in early 2026, relatively soon after we started season 14. But the question was, how could we possibly have more to say about the Virtual Boy? Especially when you consider that there were no Donkey Kong games for the Virtual Boy. How can DK Vine's The Kongversation continually talk about a device that had less Donkey Kong content on it than the Switch?
Ah, yes, but we did have one game that was in development at some point, and you know, there's conflicting accounts as to what it even was.
We had a tech demo, damn it, and that's enough to do yet another Virtual Boy episode, because on this, we will be talking about Nintendo Classics Virtual Boy, a bit of the history of the system, how the new experience compares to the old, and how it all just barely intertwines with Donkey Kong. Before we get into that, though, hey, there's lots of exciting news. So we are recording this on March 26th, and I'm not going to say what it is. You probably already know it, considering how open Nintendo, Universal, and Illumination have been promoting it today.
Whoa. I hope you don't spoil anything that was posted to the official social media.
Yeah, I know. I got called out for that earlier today, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that I leaked this official thing that was already posted on all of the official channels for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. But yeah, there's a character in the Super Mario Galaxy movie with some relevant interest to DK Vine. And now there's all sorts of questions about the future of this and how that will parallel the future of Donkey Kong. It's a very exciting time yet again to join the DK Vine forum at dkvine.com/forum to discuss the Super Mario Galaxy movie, any revelations therein, how it parallels the future of the Donkey Kong universe, and of course we're still waiting to see if there's any Donkey Kong and Friend appearances to set up the Donkey Kong movie in it.
Obviously it's not Swanky Kong because he's dead.
He's dead. I mean, we might visit his grave. That could be a great end credits or mid credits scene. You know, Donkey and Cranky at Swanky's grave, and then they're approached by Barter Bear. I don't know.
Maybe just like after the credits, just a shot of Swanky Kong's grave, and that's it.
No context. No, I would be fine with that. I mean, I would probably go back, repeat viewings just to see it again and again and again. Like that time in 99 when I saw The Phantom Menace 5 times like an idiot. Anyway, yeah, it's exciting times for the...
Well, I mean, to be fair, with the Phantom Menace, there's also the Donkey Kong 64 theatrical trailer.
Exciting times, though, for Donkey Kong and the greater DKU, apparently. So I'm looking forward to it. Don't forget to support DK Vine on Patreon if you like having regular DKU content, be it news or podcast or other forms of entertainment. We live stream these for our $5 and up patrons. They get to hear the nitty gritty, the nuts and bolts, if you will, of how we record these episodes, and lovely things like having 5-minute power outages that interrupt our due diligence. Hello to Hibby Sloth. Hello to Me Muppet. Hello to March Rose, who have joined us on this spring afternoon. All right, let's get into it, David. Let's talk about the fall and rise of Virtual Boy. Now, in all my times discussing Virtual Boy here on the Kongversation or just elsewhere on DK Vine, I don't think I've ever truly articulated that I completely understand that the Virtual Boy is a huge, disastrous, comical failure. So I just want to get that out of the way first. I know the Virtual Boy ostensibly sucks.
I mean, sure, it only got the creator of the Game Boy fired from Nintendo. But whatever,
yeah. One of the most influential hands at Nintendo was effectively disgraced by this thing and driven out before his untimely death. I am aware of all of that. Here's my argument, though, and here's how I've kind of come around to try to pitch the Virtual Boy to the youth who weren't around for its brief, effervescent heyday, the brilliant red and black flash of life that it lived. The Virtual Boy is Nintendo's most interesting failure. And I've spoken about this before, but the Virtual Boy is a wholly unique experience in Nintendo's long storied catalog. And there really hasn't been anything like it before or since, until now when they just gave us the Virtual Boy again. But it is admittedly quite cumbersome to play, especially when you're an adult, which is something I have painfully had to come to terms with over the last month or so, hunching over into the visor, playing Galactic Pinball, and having to then crack my upper back every single time I'm done. It sucks. The design of it's not very ergonomic. It's not very user-friendly unless you are a child of a specific height. And even then, there are all these warnings if you're a child, not to stick your head in it because you'll go blind, damn it. So there's that issue. And then it can induce horrible headaches in some people, to speak nothing of those who are colorblind and can't even perceive the Virtual Boy's effects properly. So it's got a lot going against it.
Yeah, it probably looks green and black to those people.
Right. Could you imagine playing the Virtual Boy in different colors? They'll never do that. That being said, acknowledging all of its faults, acknowledging that it is quite terrible in some aspects, I would say that the Virtual Boy is one of the most genuinely immersive experiences Nintendo has ever produced. And that oft-derided red and black color scheme, I think, really helps with that. It adds to the otherworldly nature of the experience. It really does transport you into this like spacey or ethereal kind of setting. And it's like a focused drug trip or fever dream in some games. Like,
I mean, it's like before we had all these VR headsets, this was it. Like in 1995, we had the Virtual Boy.
Yeah. Zuckerberg is pulling the plug on the meta world or whatever it's called. And yet the Virtual Boy is finally getting respect some 31 years later. Not much respect, but it's getting more than Mark Zuckerberg has right now. So that feels good.
I mean, to be fair, Nintendo isn't exactly naming the company after it, but still.
I mean, could you imagine though? I would have loved to have played the Virtual Boy 64 and so on. I think that for me, the quality of the immersive experience is boosted by the games, the scanty few games we got for the system. Games like Galactic
and
Pinball.
the fewer good ones.
Yeah, right. But games like Galactic Pinball and Telero Boxer really work with that aesthetic. And the smell of that foam visor could transport you away from your mundane settings. Like, you wouldn't be smelling your house or your pets or your stanky little kid BO. You would be smelling just the Virtual Boy.
I mean, I've never actually been to space, but for all I know, that's what it smells like.
Yeah, I mean, in space, no one can hear you scream, but they didn't say anything about how it smells, David, and I think that's very important to consider. The Virtual Boy is a complete sensory deprivation experience, and when you compare it to maybe similar Nintendo devices like the 3DS, well, the 3DS, yeah, it's 3D, but then I just look up and I see my living room, I see my bedroom, I see the TV on in the background. Like, it doesn't completely isolate you and your senses like the Virtual Boy does. And I think that's really what sells the Virtual Boy to me as having something worthwhile to say. It is a gimmick, but it is still I think an effective gimmick if you're willing to meet it halfway. If you're willing to accept that it's just red and black, if you're willing to accept that you only have 20 some games, if that, if you accept that only a handful of those games are good, then you're going to have a great time with the Virtual Boy.
Okay, yeah, you spend $100 for, Galactic Pinball.
Yeah. In the live stream, Gigastrike has joined us, and Jem, DK Staffer Gibbon, is there, and she says, I have it even worse. Speaking about color blindness, I'm not red/green, I'm just red deficient, so red just blends into black, making the whole thing even more headache-inducing than normal. Still love the thing, though, one of my favorite Nintendo experiments. So, yeah, I'm just getting the negativity out of the way so people will be willing to accept the glowing praise we have for it.
Anyway, I would like to apologize to anyone back in the AOL Instant Messenger days, because I would always type in red text on a black background.
I mean, that's the coolest combination of colors, David. I think scientifically, red and black has been proven to just be sick. And I will not begrudge anybody using that, even though it might not be the most accessible or user-friendly scheme. But for me, the Virtual Boy, I don't really even hold it at fault because it's a failure. It's got a pitiful game selection, but the reason it does have a pitiful game selection is mostly due to Nintendo pulling the plug on the system far too early for it to gain any real traction and really just kind of throwing it out there. It was kind of set up to fail. It didn't really have many killer apps, as you would say today. And for the price and for how odd it was to the average consumer.
Was it at the time $200?
Yeah, I mean, it quickly was slashed in price when they were trying to reduce the inventory, which is when I got mine, holding out hope that maybe it wasn't the end of the Virtual Boy, that maybe, they would come around and it would really just pick up a second wind and more games.
Obviously you need a Donkey Kong game.
You need a Donkey Kong game. You can't pull the plug on a system until you get a Donkey Kong game. So I'm far more generous about the Virtual Boy itself and its qualities as is than other people are, because I really think it just wasn't given a chance. And I think there were some political machinations, some backstabbing that went on. Gunpei Yokoi took the fall for it, and it just wasn't a great look all around. But I look back at when the Virtual Boy was coming out, when it launched, and it was 1995. And God, this is just my baby nostalgia talking, but for me, 1995 was peak Nintendo because it was the time in my life when I was the most invested in what Nintendo was doing, mostly because Donkey Kong Country had just come out. And we knew the Nintendo 64 was on the horizon.
The Ultra 64.
The Nintendo Ultra 64, because that was what we knew it as in the West, because it was still the 90s, and damn it, it had to be Ultra or Extreme. But the Virtual Boy, it was a legitimate third pillar of Nintendo, or at least that's what it was supposed to be. Because you had the home console, right? You had the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and then a year after that, you would have the Nintendo 64. You had the handheld system, still the original brick Game Boy, and that was still going strong, and you then had the Super Game Boy to kind of boost the library, to say nothing of the Play It Loud colored brick Game Boys that had just recently come out. And the Game Boy Pocket was also on the horizon as well. And then you have the Virtual Boy as this third thing. Not really a console, not really a handheld, something that was creating and filling its own hyper-specific...
third thing.
Yeah, its own hyper-specific niche that, like, nobody was asking for this thing, but it was going to fill said niche all the same.
Yeah, maybe Sega would make its own, like, virtual gear or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that's the spirit, right? Let's get the console wars reheated, except this time in stereoscopic 3D. So, for me...
20 years later, we'd get the Oculus.
Yeah, like the Virtual Boy is not genuine virtual reality. That's how it was marketed, because in the early to mid 90s, that was the promise, right? That virtual reality was just on the horizon. Consumer virtual reality was going to be the next big thing. And then it took another decade and a half for it to really even approach that. And the bubble's already burst on it because the costs still haven't come down to anything reasonable. Not even getting into the whole, well, you have to kind of move around and you have the space to do this, and not everybody's going to want to experience video games like this. So, the Virtual Boy was kind of built on a lie, at least from a marketing perspective.
I mean, you don't have to move around to play the Virtual Boy, and that makes it better.
That kind of does make it better in a lot of ways. We went through the whole motion games phase, in the, mid to late aughts. And I think we all just agree now, just let me press buttons, man. Just let me sit there on my ass and experience this game. So, I talked about the third pillar concept, and interestingly enough, Nintendo did try to pull that about a decade later, once again, when they launched the Nintendo DS. The Nintendo DS was not a cataclysmic failure. The Nintendo DS was positioned, though, as the third thing that would merely exist alongside the GameCube and Wii, and then the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, it's not the successor to the Game Boy Advance, even though it's a handheld that plays Game Boy Advance games.
Don't worry, the Game Boy Advance, we're going to keep supporting it. Don't worry. And then, like, within about a year, it was clear the Game Boy Advance was on its way out. But the Virtual Boy, at the very least, it justified itself because it was so unique. And thinking about other Nintendo failures, the only other one that's anywhere close to the Virtual Boy would be the Wii U. And I know that's going to get me in trouble with a lot of the Wii U fans out there. That's not me saying the Wii U library is trash or like anything of the sort, but the Wii U was financially a failure. And I think that's because the Wii U didn't really have identity unto itself. Like, it tried to keep the success of the Wii going, But instead of having just a slightly more powerful version of the Wii, like the Switch 2 is simply the next iteration of the Switch, they tried to build and market it around the gamepad. And I have a lot of thoughts about the gamepad, but it was clunky. It was clunky as like the primary packed in way to control the Wii U. It just felt uncomfortable. And it would be one thing if they actually fully explored the capabilities of the gamepad and like having
few games like, Game & Wario, which, WarioWare was always kind of the gimmicky series. And then I guess the map in Splatoon 1.
Yeah. There were a few games, but so much of the Wii U library just ultimately said, nah.
Just buy a Pro Controller.
Yeah. We're not using a secondary screen. Some games, like Tropical Freeze, even turned it off. You couldn't even play the game on the screen. So, I don't know, you just had a system with little to no identity of its own, except being a diminished version of something that came out before.
It was also sort of a handheld, but if, you can't even take it to the bathroom before the signal cuts out.
Yeah, I couldn't play Tropical Freeze on the toilet, so no thank you. So, there's all of that. Plus, oh man, I hate the aesthetic of the Wii U. It had that boring, buttoned up corporate look that was so prevalent in the early 2010s. And in contrast, David, the Virtual Boy is red and black and smells like a used condom in space. And that's fucking awesome. As we would say in the 90s, that's radical. And yeah, I think when I compared the Virtual Boy to the Wii U, I'm like, the Wii U didn't believe in its gimmick and it was boring. The Virtual Boy was exciting and it effectively did use its gimmick well for all intents and purposes. So yeah, advantage Virtual Boy.
And it got a better Wario game.
Yeah, that is true. It actually has a really good Wario game. And in the live stream, Jem is pointing out that, to be fair, Tiger Electronics kind of made their own version of the Virtual Boy, a weird DBZ scouter-looking thing that played Tiger Electronics game carts and was also red and black graphics. So, like, some people try to get on the secret third thing market. Yeah, the R-Zone. We all love the R-Zone here at DK Vine.
You definitely didn't forget it existed until like a few minutes ago.
Between just loving a couple of the games on the Virtual Boy. So when I talk about the Virtual Boy and I wax poetic about the Virtual Boy, I am mostly just talking, personally speaking, about Galactic Pinball and Virtual Boy Wario Land. Those are the two games that I keep going back to because they are, in my opinion, probably the best. But to me, the Virtual Boy is untapped potential through and through. It was released at the exact right time, as I said, for my nostalgic childhood journey, when my own tastes and preferences were really starting to solidify, and it felt like Nintendo was doing just everything they could do to personally get me excited. I had a North Star in my video game hobby in Donkey Kong Country and Rare, so I was following that, but Nintendo of America's whole marketing campaign around this time was tailor-made for the taste of kids in my generation. You know, I'm a play it loud baby, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. But I've discussed this quite a bit with Josh Wallen here on the podcast, because 1994 through roughly 2001, that was my era of Nintendo.
Weirdly enough, that was the whole same period though where Rare was making all those games.
Yeah, go figure, right? But if we're even going to break that down further, then I would say that the smaller period of 1994 to 1996 was when I felt like anything was possible at Nintendo. This was the most exciting time to be a Nintendo kid in the 90s because, yeah, the Nintendo 64 was on its way, and boy, that was really being built up.
Nintendo Ultra 64, available in September 1995.
Yeah, talk about marketing lies. because, they led people to believe that the Killer Instinct arcade cabinet was actually just running on the Nintendo 64 hardware. No, it wasn't. But we believed it. I mean, if we were dumb kids, we believed it, because why would Nintendo lie to us? And Donkey Kong Country probably helped pave the roads for a lot of that in our brains.
Wasn't it like originally pitched as like an Ultra 64 tech demo, and then they're like, surprise, it's a Super Nintendo game?
They let people believe that it was a Nintendo Ultra 64 presentation at the 94 Consumer Electronics Show in Chicago, and then they dropped the mic and they said this is actually running on the Super Nintendo. What? But Donkey Kong Country, yeah, it was mind-melting at the time, and the fact that they could do this on a Super Nintendo, well, God, what could they do on the Nintendo Ultra 64? And, I mean, Donkey Kong Land had just come out a couple months prior to the Virtual Boy's launch in the West, and, I mean, that was incredible to see in 1995. I mean,
Well, if you could see anything, because it's so blurry.
Donkey Kong Land made me realize I could handle anything the Virtual Boy visor threw at me as far as field of vision and depth, because if I could make out Donkey and Diddy's sprites against the jungle background in that game, I wouldn't have any issue with the Virtual Boy. But yeah, Donkey Kong Country 2 was announced. We knew it was coming. And so between all of this, there was the Virtual Boy. And rather than me finding it obnoxious or confusing, or, however people have dismissed it over the years, for me, this was just another platform that was filled with possibilities, filled with opportunities. I mean, if they could do this on the Super Nintendo, David, if this Killer Instinct arcade machine was apparently what the Nintendo 64 was capable of, God, this new platform, this third pillar of Nintendo, I can't wait to see what the possibilities are here.
Yeah, I mean, why do we even need an Ultra 64? We got Donkey Kong Country.
Just give Rare another 5 years with the Super Nintendo and see what they're capable of as far as pushing the boundaries, pushing to the limit. When you look at, say, Killer Instinct Gold, I guess, but then like original N64 game Blast Core, and then you look at Conker's Bad Fur Day and you just see how much they were able to squeeze out of the N64 by the end. Yeah, I mean, why not? But yeah, I was convinced, of course, that Rare was going to be doing Donkey Kong for the Virtual Boy, because, I mean, this was just in the Nintendo culture at the time. Donkey Kong was the hottest it's ever been. And we were in the throes of Donkey Kong Country Mania. So we have this new system coming out. It will only be a matter of time until we get a Donkey Kong release for it. And I've talked before about my vivid dream that I had that actually prompted me to go out and finally get a Virtual Boy. I dreamt that Rare was doing a Swanky Kong game for the Virtual Boy. This is when Swanky Kong was still alive, before he was engulfed in a reddish fire that wasn't the Virtual Boy. In my dream, it was called Swanky's Virtual Disco. And I don't even know what the gameplay is, but it was Swanky in this roller disco.
Yeah, I mean, what more do you want?
What more could you possibly want? It was enough for me to wake up and say,
don't even make sure it's real. Just go out and buy it.
I have to get a Virtual Boy. I mean, I went out that Saturday morning with my dad, and I actually negotiated with him in the department store. We need to get this Virtual Boy. This is when it was already slashed in price. So I already knew subconsciously the Virtual Boy was dead, but still I had to believe in Swanky's Virtual Disco. And I was able to persuade my dad, so long as I did a laundry list of chores for the rest of the summer, that we had to get a Virtual Boy. And don't worry, I'll make it up to you with my child labor. But it was a success, and I got the Virtual Boy. And From there, I quickly amassed a library because Blockbuster Video was liquidating their stock of Virtual Boy games. So I got all of those for like a very cheap price. And I also got a Virtual Boy briefcase to carry my Virtual Boy in because that was what they rented the system out in and they were getting rid of it. So they're like, here, you can have this. And I got in on the Virtual Boy just the right time, which was when it was already dead. But
you can still have, you got a briefcase. You can play the Virtual Boy anywhere now.
I can play now it is kind of a handheld. So considering though, like, I knew that there probably wouldn't be any more Virtual Boy games released. Like, I don't know why I got this hair up my ass. I think I just wanted to believe in it so much because that promise in the summer of 95 was so alluring that even in 1996, when it was clear that the Virtual Boy was being phased out, I was like, well, there's still the possibility. There's still hope, damn it, that we will get Swanky's Virtual Disco or some other more profitable Donkey Kong game. And, considering how many other dreams I've had that can be interpreted as premonitions that have come true. I sort of had a premonition about Diddy Kong Racing. I had a premonition about Donkey Kong Country 3 in the spring of 96, where Diddy was exploring this underground world and he had a purple lump of a partner called Sir Blobsworth. And I don't know, some 29 years later, who is Donkey Kong palling around with Oddrock in what? The underground world? I don't know. I think I predicted Donkey Kong Bonanza. So with that track record, David, how was I to say no to getting a Virtual Boy?
Never been wrong so far.
Never been wrong so far. So anyway, that's why I adapted the Virtual Boy platform back in the mid-90s. But what's your journey? Why the hell do you have a Virtual Boy?
So, I was, like you, Nintendo fanboy and all that. But for some reason in 1995, it just kind of slipped through the radar. Like, I knew it existed. It must have read about it in Nintendo Power or something, but I guess for the same reason nobody else bought it. So, yeah, eventually, the Virtual Boy became a joke. But then I saw this fan site, maybe you remember, it's called Donkey Kong's Jungle Vine. And they were talking about how great it was, and specifically about Galactic Pinball. So, eventually, I went on eBay and found a Virtual Boy in its original box with, So, yeah, it was a guy was getting rid of this, and eight games. They were Mario's Tennis, of course, the pack-in game, Galactic Pinball, Telro Boxer, Golf,
just called Golf, yeah.
Yeah. Panic Bomber, which is a Bomberman puzzle game, Virtual League Baseball, Red Alarm, and Virtual Boy Wario Land. And those games I just got the game packs. So if there's some like deep backstory in Galactic Pinball, I never read it.
Yeah, here's the shame because I got Galactic Pinball from Blockbuster, so I also didn't get a manual with it. So if there is deep backstory, I've never known it because I've only experienced the game itself, which is enough for me. I'm happy, David, that you were one of the ones that we infected this virus with, this plague of actually giving the Virtual Boy a chance, because it is so like interesting. And I think once people actually unclench and are willing to try it, they're like, okay, yeah, I can kind of see it. It's kind of fun. And again, there are only a handful of games worth talking about, so let's talk about them. Let's start, though, with the Donkey Kong adjacent releases for the Virtual Boy, of which there were only 2. And they both just came to NSO on Mario Day this year. Mario's Tennis is the Virtual Boy pack-in title. It came with the actual Virtual Boy system. This was originally titled Mario's Dream Tennis before they shortened it. And I think Mario's Dream Tennis is an even better title for it because it is very apt to how the game feels. It feels like you are having some sort of weird fever dream playing it. And I think it's just mostly down to playing tennis in the Mushroom Kingdom, but the sky is completely black and, you've got red trees and mountains in the distance.
I guess you're just basically just playing tennis at night.
Tennis at night, right, which is weird enough. It's
you don't get any, fever rackets or, fancy shots,
No, I'd say this is a fever dream. It's not a Mario Tennis fever. Let me clarify there. This is before Camelot had a crack at the concept of Mario and friends playing tennis. So this is early days. This is really trying to emulate the formula of Super Mario Kart, at least as far as the character roster goes. Because the character roster is basically everybody from Super Mario Kart except Bowser.
So only 7 characters, well short of the 38 from Mario Tennis Fever.
Yeah. If you're wondering if Diddy Kong's in this, no. Diddy Kong is not playable in Mario's Tennis.
And that's not kind of, Purple Yoshi or Orange Shy Guy.
Yeah. We don't even know what color Yoshi really is in this game. I assume he's green Yoshi if you look at the instruction manual. Yeah.
He's eating his racket for some reason.
This, of course, has Donkey Kong Jr. as a playable character. It's the Donkey Kong 94 design of Jr. And what's very interesting to me is that in the game, Donkey Kong Jr. is only referred to as Donkey on the scoreboard, and on the character select screen, he's referred to as Donkey Jr.
Yeah, I guess there wasn't enough room to write Donkey Kong Jr., and I guess DK Jr. made too much sense. Or just Donkey Kong, since, it came out after Donkey Kong Country, and we were calling him Donkey Kong in that.
Yeah, given that this came out the same summer as Donkey Kong Land and within a year of Donkey Kong Country's release, is it any wonder us older fans were conditioned to accept that the modern Donkey Kong is just an adult Donkey Kong Jr.? Just the casual way they're calling him Donkey in this, and he was Donkey in that. And it's just it's Donkey. It's Donkey in his younger days. And it wasn't controversial in the 90s. So, yeah, I don't know, but I did play this quite a bit. It was the pack-in, so before I got any more games from Blockbuster, this is what I had. I also rented the Virtual Boy, I should say, before I even owned it, and this was one of the games I rented, and it's okay. Going back to it after it came to NSO, I'm like, this is far more primitive than what Camelot was doing. It feels far floatier and not as precise, but like I said on just the last episode of the Kongversation, it's kind of hard to screw up video game tennis, given that's how video games basically started.
They've been doing tennis video games since the 60s, so,
Yeah. So while this isn't as good as Mario Tennis on the N64 or anything since then, it is playable and it is charming in its own way. So, yeah, it's definitely worth a checkout at the very least on NSO if you have any of the Virtual Boy accessories. The other game that came to NSO on Mario Day for Virtual Boy is Mario Clash. And this one is interesting because Mario Clash is a direct sequel to the original 1983 Mario Brothers. And it originally started life as a mini game in Virtual Boy Mario Land, which was a game in development. This was spun off into its own project, while VB Mario Land kind of vanished without explanation. We'll talk about it here in just a bit.
I also kind of recall reading some old magazine. Apparently there was a game on the Virtual Boy that was just Mario Brothers. And it was some really old.
I think that's what Mario Clash became, because this is really a sequel in format and gameplay to the original Super Mario Brothers. Now, despite that being the case, Luigi only appears in minor cameos throughout, sort of like the Super Mario Brothers movie. Am I right? He's barely in that, despite being in the title.
It's not called the Super Mario and Peach movie. Maybe it should have been. Or maybe just, I don't know. Super Mario Brothers, parentheses 2023 film.
The Mario versus Donkey Kong movie would even be a more apt title.
I mean, there's already a movie called Super Mario Brothers. Why not?
Yeah, you're right. Just diversify. So Mario Clash is set in a place called Clash Tower, and oh no, it's been overrun with Mario enemies. And from there, the gameplay is similar to Mario Brothers, except you've got both the foreground and the background.
Well, also, instead of jumping under enemies, you have to throw shells at them.
Yes, yeah. So it has been tweaked, but it is like the biggest Mario branded release as far as here's Mario going on an adventure, stomping shells and whatnot that they released on the Virtual Boy. And, it kind of got tepid reviews, and it's not really held up critically well to this day. Like, it hasn't had any grand reevaluations. But I've never been a big fan of the original Mario Brothers, and I would say that this one doesn't feel that incoherent to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. This was actually a new one to me, at least, because, as NBC said in the 90s, if you haven't seen it, it's new to you.
God.
So,
yeah, and we love the 90s here, right? The Virtual Boy, the must-see TV lineup.
Yeah, and it's a little confusing because, sometimes when you have to throw the shells, it's hard to get the timing down.
Yeah. It's definitely probably, my least played out of all the games we're discussing today. In any great depth. I probably played...
Okay, yeah, I was
going to say...
I've already played this more than golf, which I owned back then.
I own golf, too. I own golf, too, and I definitely have played this more than Virtual League Baseball, though. I'll say that. But yeah, Donkey Kong Sr. and Donkey Kong Jr. have a very brief cameo in this. If you get 800,000 points, then they will appear on a screen. Various characters appear on screens if you get a set number of points to kind of give you a congratulations. And so this is your reward for getting 800,000 points. It's Donkey Kong Sr. and Donkey Kong Jr. in their DK94 designs showing up, giving you a thumbs up. And I think then there's some vocal clip or something that says amazing or something of that sort. I don't think it's literally the young Cranky Kong saying that Mario's done an amazing job at throwing these turtles across the room. But if you want to interpret that, who am I to stop you?
It's your boy Donkey Kong. We haven't talked in a while, but hey, good job out there.
Yeah. So that's it for Donkey Kong on the Virtual Boy. Now, let's briefly talk about the infamous Donkey Kong tech demo that was cooking at Manor House at Rare in 95. Now, this was never a full game. And any further development that might have been done on this was quickly scuttled when it was apparent to Rare that the Virtual Boy had no legs, despite it sitting on a kickstand. But there's been a lot of...
Yeah, there's legs right here.
Yeah. There's been a lot of misinformation on this, mostly from Rare itself. And... For the longest time on any internet sources, this game has been described as Donkey Kong Country 2. Some people have interpreted that to mean that Rare was developing Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Virtual Boy and only moved it to the Super Nintendo belatedly. That's not the case. This would have been a port.
I mean, I kind of assumed it was a Donkey Kong Land 2 type deal.
Yeah, it would have been another version of Donkey Kong Country 2, like a descaled version of DKC 2 for the VB. And in Scribes in 2001, Lee Loveday explained that all that existed of this was the title screen before they pulled the plug. And that's what we believed for the better part of a decade and a half until Paul Makachek, friend of the show and longtime Rare staffer, still at Rare today.
Oh, didn't he say this on the show?
I interviewed him a couple years ago and we talked about it, but we also talked about it with him on social media, and we did an episode about it back in, was it season 7 of the Kongversation? So basically, according to Paul Makachek, what the project was more of an original Donkey Kong game that he was just tooling with, but it wasn't ever planned to be a full project. Like, they didn't have the green light to develop this. Paul Makachek was just basically seeing what he could do with the Virtual Boy. And so he used Donkey Kong Land assets and then plonked down the rat baddies from Battletoads for the Game Boy, another game that Paul Makachek worked on that he then used the engine for to create Donkey Kong Land, which is why there are the hearts at the bottom of the screen in the Donkey Kong Land games. It's because it's a holdover from Battletoads GB. And of course, Paul Makachek's philosophy is never do a lesser port or demake of a game on a handheld system, or in this case, a stereoscopic third pillar. Give them a new experience. So this wasn't Donkey Kong Land, but on the Virtual Boy. This was just something new that Paul Makachek, if he had actually, been given the green light, or I guess the red light in this case, sorry, Roxanne, you then would have seen a completely fresh Virtual Boy Donkey Kong Land game. But it was nothing more than a tech demo, and it never really made it farther than this. Now, I don't discount the possibility that elsewhere they were also considering doing DKC2 on the Virtual Boy, that they made the title screen on the Virtual Boy, completely independent of Paul Makachek.
I mean, they probably just stole some assets from, the other thing they were working on and put it on this console.
Yeah. But given how extensively Paul Makachek has talked about this is what I believe the project was. And be perfectly honest, at least this was far more than any DKC2 project on the Virtual Boy ever got to be, given that was just the title screen. So I would have loved to have seen this tech demo. If it still exists anywhere at Rare, it's never come across my lap. I've never seen any evidence of it still existing, even when I got to visit Rare back in 2016. So
you didn't steal some the ROM for some random tech demo from 30 years ago?
No, sadly not. I mean, I did get out some of their 64 disk drives. I smuggled those out in my rectum, but I did not find any Virtual Boy cartridges lying around. So anyway, Cameron did do a spectacular mock-up of what Paul Makachek was describing. It is on our website. It's if you scroll down our games page and you go to the canceled games section and you go to the Donkey Kong Virtual Boy game, we had a feature article written about this back in 2019. It was 2019 that we learned about this.
I mean, there was another one back in 2000.
Yes, but this
if you want to read some stuff from when we were teenagers.
Yes, so there were mock-up screenshots that Chad did back in the year 2000 of what Donkey Kong Country 2 on the Virtual Boy might look like. And it's funny because just yesterday I was discussing some of this in our Inner Circle Discord, and one of the members in there said, I thought it was Donkey Kong Country 2 that was in development. I've seen the screenshots for that. I was like, those screenshots are fake, my friend. We created those screenshots just as a what if. And they aren't real. They look very convincing. And I think Cameron's mock-up also looks convincing. And it's more accurate of what this project actually was. But go check it out. The article is called Red Dead Reflection, written by Cameron back in 2019. So let's talk about some other Virtual Boy games we love beyond just a tech demo that never got off the ground. And
now that we've done the thing that actually has to do with the DKU.
Let's talk about Galactic Pinball, David, because, oh my God, Galactic Pinball is slept on. When people talk about good Virtual Boy games, they always talk about Virtual Boy Wario Land, and for good reason. But for me, personally speaking, Galactic Pinball is the killer app. And that is because it is my absolute favorite pinball game of all time. All video game pinball pales in comparison to Galactic Pinball. In fact, it might be one of my favorite non-DKU video games ever made. And I know that sounds ludicrous to anybody outside of our little cult, but it's the truth. I love Galactic Pinball. I have been living the Galactic Pinball life for 30 years now. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about this game. It's magic to me.
I think the thing is that like it uses like all the Virtual Boy's limitations, like the red and black colors and the sound chip and everything, but like it actually like benefits from all that, gives like kind of the spacey atmosphere.
It's so excellent as like a showcase of what the Virtual Boy is and can do.
This probably should have been the pack-in game instead of Mario's Tennis.
I think for whatever reason in 95, pinball was seen as more antiquated than tennis. And it's like, what 90s kids will want pinball? And Mario, of course, is Nintendo's flagship character. I get it. But yeah, Galactic Pinball, so many people who have experienced the Virtual Boy, they don't talk about this. And I'm like, this is the most fun I have on the Virtual Boy. Like, out of everything on NSO right now, this is the Virtual Boy game I keep playing again and again and again. And every time I've dug out my Virtual Boy from that Blockbuster Video briefcase over the last 3 decades, it has been to play Galactic Pinball. Now, this is technically a Metroid game, as I've explained before, because Samus does appear in her gunship in a mini-game cameo on the Cosmic board.
Yeah, if you, unlock certain conditions, the puck turns into Samus's ship, and it says, "Let's go, Samus," on screen, and it launches a mini-game of shooting things.
Yeah. So, yeah, Metroid got a Virtual Boy game, technically speaking, and Donkey Kong didn't. So why were they so upset about Tropical Freeze? I'll never understand.
Also, there's some perceived rivalry between the Donkey Kong and Metroid fandoms, because Retro made both games, I guess. But, this is a Retro game that we say is the best thing on the Virtual Boy.
I think in the past, some Metroid diehards have gotten upset with me because I've said that Galactic Pinball is my favorite Metroid game, which I realize how insulting that sounds now after the fact, but I like pinball, David. I've always liked pinball, not as much as DK Viner Ray Day Pinball, who is a world pinball champion, but, I like pinball as kind of a passing thing. If I am in an arcade and I see a pinball machine, I'll be like, oh, I want to give that a whirl. And I'm generally not great at it, but when I get in the flow, when I actually get a good round going, then it does feel really special. And what I really like about Galactic Pinball is how legible it is. There's a lot of pinball games, both like real actual pinball machines and video game facsimiles of them, where everything is just so busy and I really can't process what's happening because I'm so overwhelmed. But with Galactic Pinball, there are so many like little surprises to find on each board, but it never feels like you're being beaten over the head with just nonsense and you can't actually figure out where your ball, or in this case, your puck is. So I really like Galactic Pinball. I think it is such a well-designed game, and probably even more importantly than that, it is a wonderful experience for the Virtual Boy. Just Andre in the live stream says the best pinball ever, ever, ever on any platform.
I've probably put more time to this than like Pokemon Pinball or Pinball FX.
every Nintendo pinball game that has come out since Galactic Pinball has been a massive disappointment. When Metroid Prime Pinball came out on the DS, we were so excited. Us at DK Vine, who were part of this Virtual Boy mutual admiration society, because we were thinking, hey, a Metroid pinball game, it's gonna be like Galactic Pinball. And it wasn't. It wasn't as...
we do play as Samus for the entire game, not just one mini game.
Yeah. I mean, as far as a Metroid experience, it was probably more faithful. I'll give it that. But the vibes were off. And partly because you weren't sticking your head through a red and black visor, smelling that foam, huffing that used condom smell. It really was just a letdown. And I mean, Super Mario, what Pinball Land? Was that the name of the game?
Oh, yeah. That's or like Mario is the ball.
Yeah. Like, I would legitimately love Donkey Kong to get a pinball game, because you could do that.
Like a barrel for the ball.
No. Shooting Donkey Kong out of a barrel cannon, and he just...
So like Sonic Spinball.
Yeah.
Just rolling.
Yeah. I would love it, but I would be critical of it if it didn't match my Galactic Pinball baseline. Does it feel as good as Galactic Pinball?
Yeah, unless you're, it's a red hockey puck sliding around in space, and, it's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Why is it a puck instead of a ball? I don't know.
I was very excited when the Nintendo Museum was offering the Galactic Pinball coffee mug in their gift shop. Go back and listen to those episodes around that time. How excited I was. And now we have Galactic Pinball and NSO, and it's just like, yeah, finally. Like, the Switch 2 is really my Nintendo console at long last. It is the Nintendo console I've always wanted, because I can play so many great games on it, DKU or otherwise. But yeah, let's talk about Virtual Boy Wario Land, because this is the game that everybody big ups as the game, the only game to play on the Virtual Boy, and I don't think that's true, but it's a very good 2D platformer.
You could call it the second best Virtual Boy game.
I think it can be tied with Galactic Pinball. I'll feel okay about that. But if you are looking for an actual platforming experience, then yeah, definitely check out Virtual Boy Wario Land. This is the second Wario Land game after Super Mario Land 3. This is the real beginnings of Wario branching out into his own series. So the fact that it has been unplayable or inaccessible unless you have a Virtual Boy and the actual cartridge for, decades now, it's kind of astounding. And I'm very happy for the Wario fandom that they can now easily play this again. It is kind of overlapping a little bit. I didn't remember the actual story. The only thing I remembered about the game was that Wario goes to the Awazon River, like the Amazon River, but
right, but it's Wario, so
but
it's a W.
They flipped the M into a W. Yeah, that's the only thing I really remembered about the plot. But the description, I'm going to read it here. This is from the instruction manual, and it's Wario's voice, but I'm not going to do Wario's voice. I, Wario, have an interesting story to tell. One day during my vacation in the Awazon River Basin, I landed my trusty seaplane, Bulldog, and decided to relax in the shadow of the beautiful Aldegara waterfall. While basking in the sun, I spied some strange creatures with masks entering the waterfall.
Should they be wearing wasks?
This piqued my interest. I hurried over and followed them into the waterfall. Shouldn't it be Materfall? Just if we're flipping all the... Okay. Behind the falls, there was a large cave, and in the back of the cave, there was a vault filled with a glorious mountain of treasure. Some of the masked creatures jumped me, but I quickly overcame them. This treasure is all mine now, I thought to myself and rushed in to collect the loot. Suddenly, the floor collapsed and I fell. I found myself deep within the earth. I was quite angry and vowed revenge on these creatures. I will get their treasure. So yeah, this is Wario falling into an, underground world. And it's not as deep as what Donkey Kong and Pauline fall into in Donkey Kong Bonanza, but in retrospect, I'm now kind of understanding why so many diehard Wario fans had the theory that Donkey Kong Bonanza started life as a Wario game. Because I'm like, oh yeah, you had this in your brains. You had Virtual Boy Wario Land kind of seeding that notion.
Well, I never read the backstory because I didn't have the instruction manual, so...
Yeah, I did get the instruction manual for this one.
I wasn't even sure if Awazon was a typo. No, it's just a rather clever pun, I suppose.
Yeah, which is weird to say now because of Jeff Bezos making Amazon such a ubiquitous term. You know what? Screw him too. Him and Zuckerberg. So there are some, kind of tenuous Donkey Kong connections to this, though. I mean, Donkey Kong doesn't appear in this, but I would say this game was very influential when Retro did Donkey Kong Country Returns, because the whole idea of jumping between the foreground and background that game did in several of its stages, and Tropical Freeze would later do, Virtual Boy Wario Land pioneered. This game really did make effective use of the 3D and playing with it in the landscape of the game. So yeah, I mean, I think this is an excellent showcase for the Virtual Boy as well. And also just the underground setting really helps, again, sell the red and black, or maybe the red and black helps sell the underground setting, because it does feel disorienting and strange, and they don't try to pass off too many above ground landscapes.
Yeah, it actually works on, say, golf, where you hit the greens, but the greens are actually red.
The reds, yeah.
And who plays golf when it's nighttime?
I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the Virtual Boy, is everything happens at night, which is statistically the sexiest time of day. So, David, how does playing the Virtual Boy via the Switch compare to the original experience? Because I was astounded when they announced this, especially because they were actually releasing a $100 replica of the original Virtual Boy visor, complete with kickstand. And, they've got the cheaper, $24 cardboard version as well. But I was like, I never thought they would go this hard.
Yeah, I thought maybe they'd put up a bunch of games on the 3DS or whatever, but that wouldn't have been the same, because you don't get the visor.
You don't get the visor, right?
Cuts you off from the real world.
Yeah, and I was a big proponent of putting the Virtual Boy games on the 3DS. I thought they should have done it, but now that we've got it on Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2, now that we've got their preferred way of reintroducing the Virtual Boy to the world, which is just basically how the Virtual Boy was in 95, I would say it's pretty impressive how they're able to use these consoles in handheld mode as a facsimile of the original Virtual Boy hardware. Magnifying the displayed game on the screen, blowing it up through the headset via the mirrors and what have you. It is kind of neat to see how they pull this off. I know a lot of people don't like that you only have dual postage stamp size screens if you're trying to play it without the headsets, but they wanted a faithful experience, and I think they've recreated a faithful enough experience to the original Virtual Boy. I mean, when I'm playing Galactic Pinball on my Switch 2, I'm forgetting that I'm on the Switch 2. I'm feeling like I'm a kid in 96 again with my newly purchased Virtual Boy, and it feels good. Now, you will want to clean your screen before popping it in the Virtual Boy headset, because it will magnify every speck of dirt and dust on it. And as somebody who has probably not wiped it down since Donkey Kong Bonanza, which, I probably drooled quite a bit playing Donkey Kong Bonanza. I probably emitted several fluids playing Donkey Kong Bonanza. You will be ashamed to see all of your filth blown up in red and black glory before your very eyes. The amount of skin that has flaked off of me since last summer, David, it's horrifying.
Yeah, actually, just noticed a scratch on the game select screen. It's not noticeable in actual games, but it's, of course, you take it out and it's completely invisible. But then it's why does 3D Tetris have this big scratch on it?
Yeah, so give it a good rub down, and it will make you want to take really good care of your Switch or Switch 2, given, that you will see all of the sins laid bare. But the thing I was worried about, though, through all of this was that we would not have a replica of the actual Virtual Boy controller, which, all these other apps in the Nintendo Classic series via Nintendo Switch Online, they generally release a controller facsimile for it. They did it for the NES, the SNES. They did it for the N64, the GameCube, even the Genesis
got one.
Yeah. So while the headset is arguably more important than the controller, the Virtual Boy controller was pretty unique for its time. It's kind of shaped like a GameCube controller. It's, got less buttons. It's got 2 D-pads on both sides. It's got a select and start button on one side and a B and A button on the other. And the thing about the Virtual
R buttons.
Yeah. The thing about the Virtual Boy controller, too, is that the power button was actually on the controller itself. So you could turn off the Virtual Boy just by sliding the little gray button in the middle over, which was very convenient. So you didn't have to fiddle on the actual headset itself. It's more convenient than exiting the Nintendo Classics Virtual Boy app.
Yeah, Virtual Boy, then taking the Switch out and pressing button there.
You actually have to physically press the close button on the screen, which then creates a smudge, which you will then see the next time you play Nintendo Classics Virtual Boy. It's not a great solution, but it works. It does do a good job of transposing the Virtual Boy onto the Switch hardware.
Yeah, the only thing is you have to it's like if you play NES games with the Joy-Con or Pro Controller, where you just pretend the X and Y buttons don't exist, which a lot of people have trouble doing.
Yeah. I've been playing with the Joy-Con grip, and it does feel close enough to the original experience. Obviously, it's oriented differently, and I apparently had some residual Galactic Pinball muscle memory, because I was going to press the Virtual Boy buttons on the original, and I was like, wait, what's happening here? Oh, wait. Yeah, I'm holding my Joy-Con grip for my Switch too. And the nice thing with the headset, though, is they do package it with Joy-Con, you have the little device for both the Switch and the Switch 2, so then it can fit either console in the actual headset, which the headset itself is hollow in that bit that you slide in your Switch console. So it is lighter than the original Virtual Boy headset for sure.
Oh, and about the controller, I've actually found that using the Nintendo 64 controller, you can use the C buttons as the right plus control pad.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it's not perfect because you can't get the display options on. But yeah, for red alarm or throwing shells in Mario Clash.
Yeah,
it works pretty well. Telero boxers and
I'm rubbish at Telero Boxer. I've never gotten past the second robot in that.
Well, I was just playing that, and yeah, the second robot ducks their head down but keeps dodging everything. And it's how are you supposed to do this? And there's 5 more after this.
Yeah, there's a reason why there are no Telero Boxer fanatics complaining about ARMS not being Telero Boxer, because there are no Telero Boxer fanatics. There's no cult around this game because nobody's ever made it past the second robot. I do wish, one of my criticisms about this, I'm fine with the like very small postage stamp size dual screens because, this is how they recreate the 3D stereoscopic presentation of the original Virtual Boy. They magnify these screens in the headset and that's how you see them.
Yeah, and actually, once you actually pop it in, it actually looks like the real thing.
It looks like the real thing, but I do wish there is a way that they could have rigged it so you can take screenshots.
Yeah, I just tweeted about that the other day, and it's like...
Yeah, because like an idiot, Bonanza has retrained my brain how I play video games. Now, if I'm playing video games on the Switch 2, I'm obsessively taking screenshots. It's a compulsion. It has become a real problem.
Yeah, just put a drinking bird on the capture button.
Going through Bonanza, wanting to document everything for DK Vine and the Kongversation, that is how I play video games on the Switch 2 now. And so, first day, playing Galactic Pinball, I was like, ooh, I gotta take screenshots of this, I gotta take screenshots of this. And then I looked at them after the fact, and I'm like, Hyle, you idiot. Of course, you're not taking screenshots of what you're seeing through the headset. You're taking screenshots of what is on the screen. And what is on the screen are these two very, very small images that are used to create the 3D effect.
And you could crop out one of them, but it still looks a little distorted, I guess.
It's distorted. It's a little blurry, not in focus. And yeah, I get that programming a way to combine them into a full robust screenshot wasn't worth the time or effort. Or
I guess however the capture thing works, you'd have to get to show a completely different thing. And
yeah, there's probably not even a way to do it without fundamentally changing how you take screenshots with the Switch 2 with that button. It's just a shame. It's just a little gripe because I am now so accustomed to it. I love doing it. And I love sharing moments of play sessions with people. If something happens or if something is amusing to me, I'm like, hey, look at this. But I can't do that with my Virtual Boy games on Nintendo Switch 2. So it's fine. It's fine. One thing I didn't realize until I just tried to give it a whirl out of the headset is that the actual game menu displays the game boxes in color.
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, and I was actually also wondering why it was so big, and it's because they don't make it as small as the actual Virtual Boy gameplay. So it has been shrunk in size a little bit, but it's still bigger than the actual Virtual Boy. So you're trying to see the
you're actually I physically move my head to see what the ones on the top.
Yeah, and so you're oh, did I not adjust the settings correctly? This is far too magnified, and it's.
But I guess for the actual gameplay to be pixel perfect.
Yeah, that was also when I realized, hey, I can see my Nintendo Switch profile icon, which is Diddy Kong from Donkey Kong Bonanza, through the red and black visor aesthetic. That's cool. I wonder what it would look like if I just started playing a regular Switch 2 game or another game on one of the other NSO apps, Nintendo Classic apps. I wonder if I could play some DKU games this way.
The thing is, we both pre-ordered the thing, so they actually came out before the Virtual Boy games came out.
Yeah, David, you immediately put on Donkey Kong Country 2 so you could do the social media post about Donkey Kong Country 2 being on NSO, and I was like, oh, damn it, David got to it before I did. That's fine. All is fair.
That was the second thing I did. The first, because I already had Mario Tennis running, so I was like, yeah, Mario's Tennis is a bit different.
Yeah. All is fair in love and posting, but yeah, it is obviously everything is magnified to the point where you cannot see it. It's not actually playable, but I did run around in a couple of the Donkey Kong Country games. I did put on Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I made a farcical post about completing the then current Emerald Rush event, Ostrich Riches, using the Virtual Boy headset. I didn't actually do that. I was just in Bonanza and I tried my best to get a screenshot of, or not even a screenshot, because I then had to take a picture from my phone through the visor of the Ostrich Bonanza trophy. But it still looks surreal.
Yeah, when I posted the Donkey Kong Country 2 ones, I just had the attract mode running. And then took some screen caps and moved around a bit. Sorry to break the illusion. I was not actually playing Donkey Kong Country 2 through the visor.
Yeah, it's pretty impossible. Like, you could probably do it as a party trick if you train yourself and you know exactly, like, where everything in a level is.
Are there other, like, VR games like Smash Brothers? Because they had that Nintendo Labo thing.
Yes.
So I believe you can play, like, VR Smash Brothers.
You can play some games via, if it has Nintendo Labo functionality, but sadly that does not include Donkey Kong Bonanza or any of the classic Donkey Kong Country games, or Banjo-Kazooie for that matter.
I think officially they say it's like not backwards compatible because the Switch 2 doesn't quite fit the same. But I guess with this thing, you might be able to.
Yeah. Let's talk about the foam on this new visor, this new $100 facsimile, this recreation of the original Virtual Boy visor. Now, one of the things I always talk about when waxing poetic about the Virtual Boy is the smell of the Virtual Boy. It had a very, very distinct smell, like used tires. And I think on Blue Sky, I specifically said the original Virtual Boy's foam visor had the aroma of burned tires slathered with intimate lube. And I think that is accurate. Now, when I got this visor out of the box after it was delivered like the Monday before this all went live on NSO. And of course, the very first thing I did was get a big ol' whiff of the headset because I wanted to know, is the foam the same? Did they recreate the smell? And it doesn't smell the same to me, David.
Yeah, I think they make it as something else that's probably less likely to give you cancer.
Yeah, probably. Probably. It's probably for the best. That wonderful scent of the original Virtual Boy probably will have me part of a class action lawsuit eventually. But, I do mourn it because that was part of that sensory deprivation I was talking about. Now, I likened the new smell to a bag of mothballs left in an old sawmill for a decade. However, after airing it out for about a month, I think that smell has mellowed just enough. And I don't know what it is. I think it's probably just some olfactory recall when I am playing something like Galactic Pinball or Virtual Boy Wario Land. But I do get very brief whiffs of the old original smell occasionally. And I don't know if the foam is just airing out or if it's just me descending into psychosis. I don't know.
It's probably that. Could just be the Switch 2's underused smell-o-vision feature.
I mean, that is next, right? Like, stereoscopic games, got that done. Where are my scratch and sniff games?
Yeah, play Donkey Kong Bonanza and just had a little banana scratch and sniff card.
Finally, I can know exactly how Conker smells when I play Bad Fur Day when it comes to NSO. That'll be really fun in the area where he just swims through liquid diarrhea. So, did you buy the cardboard version as well?
Nope.
Yeah,
I wanted the real thing.
I wanted the real thing, even though I am a slut for Virtual Boy, and I was like, should I support both? But, times be tough, David. Money is tight. And I was like, if I'm plonking down $99.99 USD for this device, when I have a Virtual Boy that still works because it's protected thanks to the good folks at the Harrisonburg, Virginia Blockbuster Video circa 1996. It's like, I don't need this little cardboard thing. I don't want that. It's not real. However, I was talking, or rather I asked Jem, I am Gibbon, about this because she did, in fact, get both. Despite having some degree of color blindness, she supports the Virtual Boy. And like any good DK Vine staffer does. And she got the cardboard version as well. So I asked her, like, okay, what are your impressions of this? And I think she actually sold me on it. So I'm going to read what she wrote. Using it is obviously a different experience because you're meant to hold it up to your face like a periscope. There's no kickstand for this. So you actually put it just around your handheld Switch or Switch 2, and then you hold it up to your face. She says, being cardboard, there's very little weight to it, so the majority of the load is the Switch 2 itself. Despite this, though, it's still very sturdy, has foam padding for where the console sits inside it, and a harder plastic piece around the eyes. It's also roomy enough that I can wear my glasses with it, something the larger plastic shell model doesn't really allow without fiddling. It doesn't have tinted lenses, so you get the menu in color, with only playing the games themselves being red and black. Notably, it actually has a gap for the audio jack on the console, allowing you to use headphones with this, unlike the big plastic shell.
Yeah, that's the one downside to the more authentic one is that you can't use wired headphones.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be playing the big plastic one in bed or anything.
You might want to play it late at night and, like to not wake the neighbors.
That's fair, yeah. I have it in my home office, which is a third floor attic space, so it's just me and the cockroaches. She says, I've actually ended up using this one more just due to the convenience. While the plastic shell has become something of a shelf piece in my room, the smaller cardboard unit is easier to keep next to my desk. Easier to get the Switch into and start playing, and allows me to use my headphones so I'm not bothering my brother or anyone else. I should also mention this wasn't a Labo style thing I had to assemble. It came out of the box that way, which actually is a huge relief to me if I do end up getting this, because I did not want to have to fold any cardboard and then, oh no, I folded it wrong. Oh no, I've ruined it. That's one of my biggest fears about anything like that. The whole DIY, construct it yourself. I'm like, well, I'm a klutz. I'm an idiot. Don't put this on me. I'm going to screw it up, and then I'm going to have a flawed thing, and I'm not going to want
maybe,
it.
You put the wrong Lego brick, and then you have to take halfway through, you don't notice, and then you have to take the whole thing apart again.
Oh, God. Yeah, talking about hunching over when I was putting together all those Donkey Kong Legos a couple years ago.
The decal's slightly out of line.
Oh, my God. That was one of my biggest phobias as a kid. You put the decals on your toys, and you're like, steady hand, steady hand, steady hand. And I have a perpetual shake because I'm constantly chugging caffeine and other amphetamines. And so it's like, even as a kid, I didn't have a steady hand. Plus, I have just constant low-level anxiety thanks to my bipolar 2. And oh my God, just the world is a nightmare.
Well, you don't have to worry about that with the Virtual Boy.
Now, just Andre in the live stream says, Conker smells like old cum. Cool. Can't wait for that scratch and sniff accessory. So seeing how they've executed this on the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2, I get now why they never did this for the 3DS, despite it being a seemingly perfect platform at the time. I kind of understand. Not that I think they would have done this during that era of Nintendo. I think Nintendo has loosened up quite a bit since that period of time. Like, I'm not trying to speak ill of Iwata or anything, but I think the culture in Nintendo is a lot more like lower L liberal as far as just, hey, what's the harm in doing this? What's the harm in embracing this part of our history?
Sure, why not put a $100 tribute to our most infamous failure?
I mean, I might buy 5 of these eventually, David. Who knows? But yeah, I think
the Switch 2 itself was $500. So.
Yeah. I have spent way more money via Nintendo in the last year than I have probably in the last 15 years.
sure eventually the Plus expansion pack subscription will add up to that much.
Yeah. So,
because this is true. I actually wasn't subscribed to the expansion pack until now.
Oh,
because,
yeah.
Whatever.
It's worth it though, isn't it?
Banjo-Kazooie on the Xbox,
Yeah. So, like, I get...
So Nintendo knows that. I'm sure there was a huge uptick in expansion pack subscriptions because of this.
I'm sure now, that they realize that the Virtual Boy isn't a failure if you just try a little bit. If you don't
I definitely put more time into this than the Nintendo 64.
I have played this in just, like, sheer minutes or hours played. I've eclipsed the Sega Genesis app. I've eclipsed the GameCube app, the Game Boy Advance app. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like total playtime at the end of the Switch 2's life if this gets anywhere close to Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is now like I think close to 270 hours. But yeah, they wanted a faithful recreation of the Virtual Boy, and now technology has advanced to the point where they can do something like that. Again, I don't think they would have done this even if they had the opportunity back in 2010 or so. It's a different culture at Nintendo now. They're more accepting of their full history. They're not scared of their own failures or even things that aren't politically convenient for them. Like, hey, let's just, put Wart in this movie. It's like, well, he's not a part of our current stable of character. Who cares?
Whatever. It's a Super Mario Brothers 2 movie. Nope, it's not called that. Who cares? Who
cares? Yeah. And you know what? I'm okay with this. Like, I am probably going to get the cardboard version now because Jem just sold me on it. So I do have a bit more convenience when I want to have some Galactic Pinball time. But I think that if Nintendo believes you must stick your head in something, if you must bury your eyeballs in a visor to experience classic Virtual Boy games, if that's a trade-off to actually having them part of Nintendo's ecosystem from this point on, I'm willing to make that trade-off. And who am I to disagree? Really, because it's always been my philosophy that part of the magic of the Virtual Boy is the immersive deprivation of your senses. And so, yeah, kind of glad they waited.
I wasn't expecting them to do this at all, but if they did, I figured like, okay, yeah, it'd probably just be on the TV. Maybe like make 3D glasses so it'd show up as purple on screen, but if you have 3D glasses, it might look right.
Yeah.
But no, they did. Was this as close as we're ever going to get to as it was in 1995?
Yeah, I mean, as two people who have played the original Virtual Boy time and again on like several occasions, I would say that this does just feel like the Virtual Boy, more or less. So good job. Good job, Nintendo. Now, there are upcoming additions throughout 2026. More games are being added, and they're also including the feature to change the color for the very first time. Now, you'll have to pop out the lenses if you're using the $99 headset, but you can change the color to yellow, green, or white for the very first time. And I'm probably not going to be doing this because popping out the lenses, again, sounds dangerous to me. Like, what if I can't get them back in? What if I break it? This is too precious to me. This now has a permanent spot on my work desk where I'm supposed to be doing important business, and instead it's just the Virtual Boy spot. But yeah, this is really cool because there was a joke in Nintendo Power in 1995 that in a year or so, Nintendo would be releasing something called the Virtual Girl in pink and black. And while I'm not advocating the gendered norms of assigning like pink as a feminine color and, blue as a masculine color or whatever. I guess in this case, red would be the masculine color. But I did like that idea of, hey, what if they did Virtual Boy in different colors eventually? Like, it was the Play It Loud era, and we were getting those Game Boy shells, and really, like, all sorts of toys were then just being released in, like, neon colors. So it was kind of just in the kid culture at the time. But yeah, like I was like, yeah, sure. Of course the Virtual Boy will be a success, and then they'll eventually have new models of it. And didn't pan out, but
Although, yeah, probably also would have felt weird if like to get a blue Virtual Boy, but still would have displayed in red or something.
I mean, yeah, like I think
I guess it's theoretically possible if they had stuck with like primary colors, but
yeah, it is. I mean, they went with red because it was the cheaper display option, but I think you could do the stereoscopic 3D and other primary colors for sure. So anyway, this feels like a 31-year-old fulfillment of a flight of fancy I had as a kid. So that's pretty cool. Like, it's a shame we don't have a Donkey Kong game to try it out in Banana Yellow. But again, I like the idea all the same. And we are getting never before released Virtual Boy games that were effectively like ready to go, but they never saw release because the Virtual Boy basically died on the vine. No pun intended for our website. The games are Zero Racers and D-Hopper. Zero Racers is the bigger draw of the two for sure, considering it is an honest-to-God F-Zero game that has never been released.
although I will say, because you got a screenshot here, I see at least one racer.
Okay, so it's like wireframes and...
Yeah, it's like a Red Alarm.
Yeah, it looks a lot like Red Alarm. In fact, I was confused as a kid because I thought Red Alarm was Zero Racers. When I rented Red Alarm, I was like, wait, is this the Zero Racers game? No, it's something different. But yeah, this was the F-Zero game developed for the Virtual Boy. It was heavily promoted in the magazines of the era and just never came out. So... yeah, you're going to get a new F-Zero game in 2026. And I've already established, quite controversially, how little I view F-Zero 99 as a real, genuine game. So I'm so happy for the F-Zero fans that they'll have an actual new game to enjoy.
And then there's something called D-Hopper, which apparently stars Dennis Hopper. I guess since they couldn't get the rights to Waterworld, we're getting this.
They were going to make a Waterworld game for Virtual Boy,
no, they
too.
did.
They did?
Yeah, I believe it's the only movie tie-in game they ever made.
Oh, it did get released. I've never played it, but I guess it did get released, yeah.
I think there was a poster in Nintendo Power. It's like Waterworld, available now on the Virtual Boy.
Yeah, of course, Dennis Hopper, the fourth best King Koopa / Bowser ever committed to film after all the other ones. He was fine. Rest in peace. Not to speak ill of the dead. He was fine for what he did, for the interpretation of the character. But, yeah, I don't really know what D-Hopper is. I'll try it though. Why not? I have it. I'll have it accessible. But yeah, I mean, this is like the equivalent of Star Fox 2 finally seeing release, back when they released the SNES Classic, the mini. It's
also apparently something called, we're reading the chat, saying something, apparently there's a game called Dragon Hopper also. I guess there's 3 unreleased games.
But D-Hopper isn't Dragon Hopper?
Oh, is it? Oh, no, it's Dennis Hopper. I just told you.
Oh, okay. Wow, just... so many games in the Hopper series for Virtual Boy.
Donkey Kong Hopper? Maybe that's the next one.
Diddy Hopper just sounds like you're trying to evade the court and the justice system. No, but like this would be, I guess the closest equivalent for us, for the DKU fandom, would be if like the 2003 build of Diddy Kong Pilot saw release officially. Like something that's more or less complete.
Hey, it's just been a good year for Finding Lost Media, so it could happen.
Yeah,
a couple Doctor Who episodes.
Mystery Science Theater 3000. Yeah. So who knows? But yeah, I'm excited about this. It's like I actually consumed so many video game magazines in a day. So like, even though I completely spaced on Waterworld actually being released. Like all these Virtual Boy games that didn't actually make it out. It's just like, wow, this is actually really cool that Nintendo is doing this. So, yeah. Exciting times we live in. Jem says, honestly, Waterworld VB was kind of a letdown. It's just boat combat. Yeah, who would want a game where you just sail around on open seas, firing on other ships? I would never play a game like that. We have some calls. Well, actually, we have one call and one comment. You can always call the DK Vine hotline at 1-202-630-VINE, 8463. But I also allow, if you're scared of the phone, to leave a written message for us that we will read aloud. In this case, it came from Blue Sky. So that is always an option for you. David, should we go and play our call?
Hello, David. Hello, Hyle. This is Crawlmax calling in for another Virtual Boy episode, which is strange because the Virtual Boy is easily among Nintendo's worst systems. It's tied for worst with the Color TV game series and the Pokemon Mini, because none of them have any Donkey Kong games whatsoever, which makes the whole thing like worthless trash. But I do have a few questions about it. Like, firstly, a logistical question. If you already talked about this earlier, you can just skip over this, but I need to know just in case. The Nintendo Classics Edition, how does this work? So I know it's the Virtual Boy headset, but like, does it check? Are you not allowed to play the games if it's not in the headset? There's some way that they can check that. What does it look like if you try to play in the handheld mode without the headset? And I assume it doesn't work in TV mode, but like, have you tested that? Because there's absolutely no way that I would pay for this little peripheral to have the privilege of playing subscription Virtual Boy games. At that point, I would not even try it as a curiosity. But I also have a question, like for Hyle specifically, just because you're so sort of cloistered in your game knowledge. Have you played any virtual reality games besides the Virtual Boy? Have you ever tried on the VR headset and played a game with it? If so, what did you think about it? And do you think there's any interesting DKU applications for that? A DKU game that could be in virtual reality, or do you think it's just more of a novelty? Mario Odyssey has a Labo VR mode, so I guess Bonanza could do something similar if there's a Labo VR 2, although I kind of doubt it. Thank you for taking the call.
Well, thank you for the call. So, yeah, as we explained, you can technically play the games if it's not in one of the visors, but it is.
Well, if it's docked, it'll tell you to like take it out of the dock.
Yeah.
But then, I'll say like insert the thing, then press A. But you could just press A without,
Yeah. You can just press A, and then it's very, very small dual screens, slightly blurred. But I have played a round of Galactic Pinball like that, so it is possible. It's just not recommended. And yeah, again, it's just magnifying the display using the like mirrors. There are diagrams for how the Virtual Boy actually works, like the interior workings of it and how it actually like blows up the image and creates the 3D effect through the visor. So it's just doing that, but using the Switch screen as its basis. So, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Like other people, if you are financially strapped and you like want to check this out, I don't actually recommend it. For as much as I laud Galactic Pinball and to a lesser extent Virtual Boy Wario Land, do not take the $99 plunge. At least start out with the cardboard version, please. I don't want to be responsible for anybody going into financial ruin because of this Virtual Boy, because you will probably be disappointed. But if you love the history of it, if you love a different experience, yeah, absolutely. Take baby steps into this world, please.
I do wonder if there's a way you can, like, I don't know, make your own Virtual Boy headset, like Google Cardboard, where you could just, because maybe with the Switch one, it might be possible to just use the Labo. Yeah, that thing everybody has.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually like excited to try out some Labo functionality because there's no way I was ever going to buy that. But stick it in a Virtual Boy shell? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Traveler of the Stars has joined us, and Traveler of the Stars is one of the people who bought the full Virtual Boy, the $99 plastic shell. And, I warned you, Traveler of the Stars, that you might not like it, but I will not be held responsible for any disappointment out there.
Also, apparently we're spreading misinformation about D. Hopper.
What misinformation about D. Hopper?
Game starring Dennis Hopper. That's unrelated to Waterworld.
Yeah. Anyway, the other question was about actual virtual reality. I have played it a little bit at E3. There's lots of like VR demos in like the indie halls and what have you. And so I've tried it. It's okay. Like it's not anything I would ever really play casually, considering I like to play games just in the comfort of like bed or whatever. And it's just like, it's never something I really like to devote a whole lot of effort into playing. I'm just like, oh, I'll pick up this system and I'll play it. And it's why I've always preferred handheld games as I've gotten older, and why the Switch was such a boon as far as still getting to play the big console games without having to like haul my ass over to my TV. So virtual reality, it's a fun gimmick, but I don't think it's ever going to have any like permanent future as far as like, this is what video games are going to be, like we thought in the 90s it was going to be in a decade or so. I think it's always going to come around again. There's always going to be a bubble for virtual reality, but I think it will never fully just replace looking at a screen and playing a video game the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, I mean, I've played a few demos at PAX, and I will say, like, the idea, like, putting on the headset and being like completely immersed, that kind of took me back to the Virtual Boy days.
Maybe I'm a little biased because I felt like a damn fool trying to like figure my way around this virtual escape room that I was in and making all these wild gestures. And I was just like, you know what? This is something I would want to do in the privacy of my own home where no prying eyes see me. I would be interested if we got like a Donkey Kong virtual reality game. I think if it was more low key, more just, hey, enjoy Donkey Kong Island, get to hang out on like Donkey Kong's treehouse or in the Congo jungle. If it was more just a chill game versus a full on wacky, bombastic adventure, that would probably be more my speed and what I want to get out of it. But even
Maybe
then,
an extra mode in like Donkey Kong Bonanza where you can just use a headset and just look around.
just look around at all my statues.
Yeah, I've never played the Mario Odyssey VR mode, but I'm guessing it's just playing the game, but you can look around more.
Yeah, which seems disorienting to me. But yeah, I'm not opposed to virtual reality. It's just, again, a cost thing. It's never really dropped in price to the point where it felt like a must-have purchase for me. At least not to the point where I'm willing to plunk down $99 for my second Virtual Boy. I don't know. To each their own, though. Yeah, Gem has the HoloLens. That is something I'm actually interested in. It's not virtual reality. It's augmented reality. But I definitely want to play Young Conquer, Gem. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I'm very, very excited to give Young Conquer its redemption arc. All right, we have a comment from Blue Sky. I'll read this. This is from Incognito. It says, hello, Incognito here again. I'm so glad the Virtual Boy has been added to NSO, as I finally get a chance to play these classic games after hearing you guys talking about it for the past few years. But that got me thinking, considering everything is canon, how would you reconcile something like Mario's Tennis and Super Mario Kart into the timeline? When would these games that happened concurrently with the original Donkey Kong Country games take place in the timeline? And if they're between Donkey Kong 3 and Donkey Kong Country, then what would Donkey Kong Jr.'s motivation be to hang out with these guys after having to save his grandfather from Mario 3 separate times, if you count the arcade Game & Watch versions of Jr. and Donkey Kong 2 as separate entries, like I do? Thanks for taking the time to read my comment, and I'm looking forward to the episode when it comes out. take care. Well, I think you can make the argument that, yeah, these games take place between the arcade era and the country era, the Rare era, the
Or
DK.
before Donkey Kong Jr. died in the Great Ape War.
No, bad, David, bad. I'm gonna smack you with my Virtual Boy Wario Land manual, which is the only thing I have in close range right now. No, so I think, yeah, it's one of those nebulous things, right? Because Donkey Kong Country was such, or presented as such a big jump forward in time, but then, concurrently you still had games coming out utilizing the DK94 versions of Senior and Junior. So it's just one of those things where you just kind of have to hand wave it away and just, there's different ways to view it. I like to view it that Mario is much older than he comes across. There's also, apes age faster than humans or whatever. But why would Donkey Kong Jr. be hanging out with them? I don't know.
I haven't played Donkey Kong Hockey on the game. Watch me, that's the missing link. Maybe the manual for that explains everything.
Why is the modern Donkey Kong, be it an adult, junior, or not, hanging out with them in Mario Kart 64? I mean, I think DK Jr. is probably just more willing to let bygones be bygones far more than Cranky would. So maybe that'll be a story for another day. Maybe we'll eventually learn a canonical reason why he was able to break bread with Mario and friends so fast.
Although Cranky does appear in the Lego form.
Yeah, but you can create your own story for that. There's no reason to say that Cranky has to be happy that Mario is encroaching on his turf. Generally speaking, though, that's kind of why I always just view these games as rough backstory, but I don't really give them as much thought as I do for everything from Donkey Kong Country onward, as far as like the release schedule goes, and I guess their place in the timeline. But yeah, there's no harm in coming up with your own fan and reason either. So, all right, final thoughts, David. Now, not to keep beating a red horse, but we live in an era where Donkey Kong is now a big time Nintendo IP with that full history that Incognito was alluding to now being celebrated. And we've got Super Mario Bros. 2 characters being acknowledged, as Traveler of the Stars keeps pointing out to me in the chat, in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Speaking of the Super Mario Galaxy movie, well, it seems to be acknowledging another aspect of the DKU. More on that on our next episode. And the Virtual Boy is finally back. So it's like my entire personal arc has been building up to Nintendo 2026. And it feels really nice to have all of my freakish kinks finally be validated by Nintendo once again. It only took me 30 years to get here, but the journey is at its end. Now, my question to you is, we're getting D-Hopper, which is Dragon Hopper, not Dennis Hopper.
It's Dennis Hopper.
We're getting Zero Racers, which is the F-Zero game. Do you think we could possibly see any other Virtual Boy releases, such as VB Mario Land? Now, here's the thing. We have screenshots and some trade show footage of the Mario Land game that was in development for the Virtual Boy. We don't know how far along it was. We know that Mario Clash kind of evolved out of a mini game for VB Mario Land. So it might be that they pulled up stakes on actually doing a Mario platformer, a traditional Mario Land on the Virtual Boy early on, and settled on doing Mario Clash. There's also a screenshot of this giant floating Wario head in the game. It kind of looks like the Koopa clown car, but it's Wario's head. And so there might be some suggestion that like Wario was going to factor into this game, and then maybe that also like branched off into Virtual Boy Wario Land. So it's possible that not much of this game exists, but we've never really gotten any word on what this game was. So I don't know, maybe fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, I think like everything from the original announcement, they decide to announce everything they're ever going to do.
No, because like in 1996, when I had that dream, nay, a premonition, I refuse to accept that this is it for the Virtual Boy.
Although maybe that's the original plan, but maybe people are subscribing to the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack just to play Virtual Boy games. I'm
there
sure
you go.
They have enough data.
There you go.
That's what I'm doing.
That's what David Thomas Lynch is doing, Nintendo.
Perhaps, maybe they can actually finish development on this Mario Land game.
They could finish development on this Mario Land game, because here's also the thing. There's also a Virtual Boy Mario Kart game apparently in development. Now, we've never seen any demos, videos, or screenshots of it, but
I recall some screenshots, some 90s magazine, although that could just be a Mandela effect.
Could be from the universe you're from, David. I've never seen it myself. When researching this episode, I couldn't find any actual screenshots of it, so it might just be a Mandela effect.
Yeah,
kind of
maybe I was reading that alongside my Bernstein Bears books.
Yeah, so I was in my Fruit of the
say
Loom.
Mandela effect, like Nelson Mandela. Is that what it's called?
Yes, that's what it's called. I thought it was a
Mandela effect.
No, it's Mandela effect because apparently some people thought Nelson Mandela died in prison and he never became president of South Africa. And these are just
pretty sure it was a Mandela effect, but I can't seem to find anything.
Now, just sit back in your Fruit of the Loom underwear with the cornucopia.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, if there was a Virtual Boy Mario Kart game anywhere in development, we never saw any actual visual evidence of it, but it was reported by magazines of the era. So who knows? And yeah, if they got David to subscribe to NSO Plus expansion pack for the Virtual Boy, all I'm arguing is I don't think we're going to get anything beyond what they've announced coming later this year. But if there is any financial profit to be had, if there's any evidence that they can keep making money off of this concept, then who knows, maybe even, all right, they will develop new Virtual Boy games. Maybe not just exclusively Virtual Boy games.
The Donkey Kong Land Endor Donkey Kong Country 2 game they were working on, or not working on.
I'm not even making the argument really that they would just release a game exclusively for the Virtual Boy, but maybe future games can have Virtual Boy modes where you can actually play it through the visor and experience
they
it.
could actually color correct it so that, we can actually see what's going on.
No, it has to be red and black.
Yeah, there's 4 shades of red.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, scale it down to red and black. So, yeah, I refuse to give up on the dream I have had since summer of 1995. I will not give up on a Virtual Boy Donkey Kong game. It's gotta happen, David. It's gotta happen. Now is a better time than ever before because Donkey Kong is back, the Virtual Boy is back, and really that's all I have to go off of, but that's good enough. That's more than I've had for the last 31 years. Maybe even Swanky's Virtual Disco will finally be released because I know that dream was a premonition, David. I know it. Would you please just step on my back, my 40-year-old back? I threw it out before we did this episode because I was playing Virtual Boy for 10 minutes.
I would, but I can't find it because I can't see anything because I've been playing Virtual Boy.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.